Innovation is becoming increasingly critical to the success and long-term financial strength of an insurer, as it enables a company to maintain relevance by developing meaningful solutions to ever-evolving risks while improving operational efficiencies. I'm John Weber, and AM Best has just released a comprehensive report on innovation in the insurance industry titled Insurers Agree, Innovation is Critical for Future Success. Joining me now to talk more about that are Edin Imshirovich, Senior Financial Analyst, Sridhar Manian, Director, and Claire Finnegan, Criteria Analyst. And Claire, let's start with you. What was the motivation to do this innovation survey?
We launched the survey because we wanted to understand the innovation landscape within the insurance industry before considering a more explicit assessment of innovation within our rating process. We believe that the pace of innovation within the industry is accelerating and that innovation is becoming increasingly critical to the long-term financial strength of insurers. However, there exists perception that the insurance industry in general has been relatively lagging in innovation and that it's been slow to respond to pressures to innovate. So we wanted to ask our companies, first, how do you perceive the overall industry's adoption of innovation? And secondly, what individual strategies are you using to implement new and innovative ideas?
Now, innovation means different things to different people. How does AM Best define innovation?
Well, there are several key aspects of AM Best's definition of innovation that I'd like to highlight. The first is that AM Best believes that innovation is a multi-stage process. So this is important because we know that there are several steps in between coming up with an innovative idea and then implementing that idea and then actually having that idea have a measurable impact on the success of a company. The second aspect of the definition that is really critical is that AM Best believes that innovation is the process by which organizations transform ideas into new or significantly improved products, processes, services, or business models. And this is important because what we're saying here is that being innovative does not necessarily equate to being high-tech. There are several different paths to take to innovation. And while technology is a big driver behind many of the innovations we're currently seeing, it's not the only way a company can be innovative. And then the third and final aspect of the definition that I think is really important is that we believe that innovations can be organically grown or they can be adopted from some kind of external source. So as a whole, all of these aspects of our definition really are trying to emphasize that there are many different paths companies can take to be innovative.
Sridhar, what would you say are some of the key messages from the survey overall?
We got responses almost from 450 plus companies across more than 45 markets. I think the sheer volume of the response itself was a testament to the fact that insurance industry is really taking innovation seriously. And added to that, we also got reinforcement from the survey itself, where more than 80% of insurers agreed with us that innovation is in some way or form critical to the success of their organizations. So that was the first key takeaway, which was encouraging because AM Best had started with a hypothesis and the survey actually served to reinforce it. And the second takeaway was that the key reasons that insurance companies stated that innovation was important for their success was essentially to address changing customer needs and to gain a competitive advantage. So essentially, insurance companies are really using innovation to make sure that they are not left behind from the competition, because innovation, we feel, could differentiate between winners and losers. And the customer's needs are also changing. The way they interact with insurance companies, the needs, everything is changing. So insurance companies need to be responsive to that. And the third important takeaway was the challenges that insurance companies are facing in terms of implementing innovation. Like Claire said, innovation, we felt that insurance companies were relatively late in adopting innovation. So really the IT systems and the infrastructure that foster this kind of innovative growth is really still not in place. And the culture of an insurance company is probably vastly different from a high-tech company like Google. So with that automatically allows innovation to take place. So these are the challenges that insurance companies definitely need to address, in addition to the talent that they need to attract to implement innovation. So those are the three key takeaways from the survey.
What are some of the external forces that's making innovation so important?
Innovation is not just about technology. So there are other significant generational changes that's taking place in societal attitudes towards things like employment or marriage or home ownership, things like that. So where people used to take things like pension plans and other defined benefits for granted, it's not there anymore. So life insurance companies really need to be innovative in order to try to create attractive savings products and other life insurance products to these kind of consumers. And the other thing that's happening is also the gig economy, forcing health insurance companies to react to make customer experiences more efficient and affordable at the same time. They don't want to compromise quality, but at the same time deliver health insurance products to consumers at an affordable rate. P&C, of course, I mean, that is being impacted directly by they're almost drinking from the fire hose so as to speak, but with the amount of data that is being generated, advances in machine learning, big data, etc., and they really need to be up to speed in terms of responding to these kind of technological changes.
Ed Sridhar said that it's not just about technology, but is technology going to completely change the insurance industry?
So what technology has historically done and is doing today is really bringing efficiencies to insurers' ability to assess and price risks, manage claims, interact with customers, as Sridhar has mentioned, and increase operational efficiency. So, for example, the explosion of available customer data, or big data as it's called, is allowing insurers to really understand clients in a much better way and potentially may lead to better risk assessment. But also having all of this information about a client is helping insurance companies all sorts of other efforts, things like cross-selling opportunities or retention or improving overall customer experience. And then you have technologies like Internet of Things, or IoT, which in certain instances can actually play a transformational role within the insurance space by introducing new business models such as on-demand insurance, for example. And IoT can also potentially take the risks, overall risks, out of the economic system, right? Which, if you really think about it, may pressure some traditional premium sources, but also may allow insurance companies to sort of focus more towards risk prevention, right, and move away from paying claims. But speaking of exposures, IoT and some of these technologies may also increase certain exposures, things like cyber, given the inherent risks associated with sort of having billions of interconnected devices, right? Back to Sridhar's point, AI is really sort of being used more and more in customer interaction efforts at the moment in the form of chatbots. And it goes without saying that AI's ability to automate increasingly complex tasks holds a lot of promise for operational efficiencies going forward. So really when thinking of technology and the way it's sort of linked to innovation, right? So when I think of technology, what it does is really expanding the toolbox, and it's providing these new tools at management's disposal. But it's ultimately up to the management to sort of look at these tools and decide which tools to use in an effort to gain a competitive advantage.
Now, as you know, some insurers have very deep pockets. Others have to keep a very close eye on expense ratios and their bottom line. How should that second group go about looking at innovation?
Innovation is not necessarily about spending X amount of resources on these specific projects, right? It's also about the culture of the company, right? And the management's ability to recognize good ideas, and equally importantly, to implement and execute those ideas in order to get to sustainable advantage. In addition, with the rise of the insurtech players, they're providing opportunities for insurance companies to do interesting things without necessarily having big investments. So, for example, personal and commercial auto space, primary insurance carriers now have a lot of opportunities to partner or with various telematic providers and instantly gain an ability to better price their risk. You already are seeing a lot of insurance companies today obtaining big data from various third parties in an effort to better assess their risk. But then moving away from the technology, right, you see a lot of examples of companies out there that are really creating innovative products to address the market needs as well. And that doesn't necessarily require large investment outlay. So really there are many, as mentioned earlier, there are many paths to innovation, and some of them don't necessarily need to have a large impact on the expense ratio.
Now, as we all know, insurance is a highly regulated industry. Sridhar, what does all this innovation mean to the regulators?
As regulators look to the insurance industry and the changes that are taking place in the insurance industry, they really need to make sure that they understand the changes that are going on, because only if they understand, they would be able to come up with prudent regulation that actually encourages innovation so that it's beneficial for customers. At the same time, make sure that the insurance companies are still acting in the consumer interests without creating extra amounts of systemic risks, etc. And as technology becomes more technology and digital, etc., become a more critical part of the insurance value chain, it also becomes critical that these regulators need to start talking to each other, like the regulators who are regulating communication need to be talking to regulators who are regulating insurance, etc. So I think there's a lot more cross communication that is necessary in order to make sure that they come up with prudent regulation in order to regulate the insurance industry.
So what are the next steps after this survey? Clara, what should the insurance industry be expecting from AM Best?
Well, the next step in AM Best's innovation initiative is the development of a new criteria procedure focused on evaluating innovation. We expect that we'll have the draft of this ready for release in 2019, and it will be made available for a 30-day public comment period. Following feedback received from that public comment period, we're then going to consider revising the best credit rating methodology for a more explicit evaluation of innovation within the rating process. Any changes that we would make to the BCRM would also be released for a 30-day public comment period.
Are you expecting any significant impacts to the ratings because of possible criteria changes?
We're not expecting any significant rating movement as a result from either the new criteria procedure focused on evaluating innovation or any changes or updates we make to the BCRM. Right now, we are indirectly capturing the impact of innovation throughout the various building blocks of the rating process, and the more explicit assessment of innovation is really designed to highlight AM Best's belief that the ability to innovate and the ability to respond to accelerating change through innovation is increasingly critical to long-term financial strength.
Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
You can find the full report online at ambest.com. For AM Best TV, I'm John Weber.